papers. He also collaborates with organizations working on wildlife and conservation to produce illustrated awareness material. He has won awards by the UNDP, Sanctuary Asia, WWF International, Royal Bank of Scotland, and the Green Literature Festival for his work, and has authored 5 books. Rohan is notorious for rolling up into a ball like a pangolin to avoid answering the phone or meeting people. Thank you so much for being here. And if you have any questions or comments, you can definitely share them over Facebook chat where you're watching this. And now I'll hand it over to Rohan.
Thanks, Sandra, and thank you, Think Arts and Tata Steel, for having me virtually, albeit at Kolkata Literary Meet. All of you are able to see the screen. So I'm going to take you quickly through a crime scene. This is not an actual crime scene. This is just an interaction between the various elements of nature, and our protagonist, or the protagonist of my book, Naturalist Ruddy, happens to be a mongoose who thinks he's a detective. And whatever he observes in nature, he treats those observations as crime scenes and goes about solving them. And as and when he solves these little crime scenes, we, the readers of this book, get intimate with the various happenings of the natural world, the way various creatures interact with one another, what kills what preys on what eats what, and the various elements of the food web and the web of life. So that's what natural study is all about. All right, let's just jump in. So I've recently published 2 books, one of which is Green Humor for a Green Planet, the other is Naturalist. My series of cartoons on wildlife, conservation, nature, all things green is called Green Humor, which you can find both in this book and my website, greenhumor.com. So I'm a bird watcher. I love watching birds. I travel to various places to watch birds, and I also keep a tally of the number of birds I watch. So I'm currently on 985 right now. But then something happened in 2020. We all were struck with this bolt from nowhere, the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and quite funnily, it was linked to a wild animal as well, which was a pangolin. And because I couldn't travel to see birds, I was locked up in my house, like all of you were, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, how to go observe wildlife. So I started watching various creatures that inhabit my own home. And much to my surprise, I discovered an entire ecosystem right in my backyard. So, and then I started documenting all these creatures that I began to watch. There were moths of the different kinds, there were butterflies of various kinds, dragonflies, wasps, honeybees, even reptiles and amphibians. And all of these creatures were right in my home. And here I was trying to visit exotic places in search of exotic species, while I didn't even know that such a rich array of wildlife exists right in my immediate vicinity. And these observations, these creatures presented themselves as mysteries to me, because even though I knew a fair amount about birds, about mammals, I had no idea about what these creatures are, what their lives are like, what their daily lives are like, what they eat, what preys on them, and how they interact with the various resources available to them, and what they are really doing in my home in the first place. So as and when I started finding out more about them, I started consulting friends who are researchers, who are scientists. I began to unravel their biology as little mysteries for myself. And these are stories that I wanted to present to my audience, much like they appeared to me in the form of mysteries. And that's how I came up with the idea of this book, Naturalist Ruddy. So who is Naturalist Ruddy? Naturalist Ruddy is a ruddy mongoose who's always ready for adventure. So we are going to join him in unlocking some of the most fascinating mysteries of the natural world, both in this presentation and I hope later in this book if you enjoy my talk. So I mentioned ruddy mongoose. That's a species of mongoose that's found in India. There are 6 species in all. The grey mongoose, which is the most common mongoose that we see in our cities. The small Indian mongoose, which if you go to Delhi or if you visit the Terai region, the grasslands that are around the Ganges or even in Assam, you will see the small Indian mongoose, which is a more compact and a slightly yellow version of the grey mongoose. Then there's the ruddy mongoose, which is a common species in forests. So any deciduous forest that you visit in India, particularly central and South India, you are likely to see the ruddy mongoose. I come from Nagpur, and that's where ruddy mongoose is very common in the jungles around Nagpur. Then there are two mongooses that are endemic to the Western Ghats. They are not found anywhere else. Those are the striped neck mongoose and the brown mongoose. And finally, we have India's largest mongoose, the crab-eating mongoose, which is found in the rainforests of the northeast. Arunachal, Nagaland, Assam, these states have the crab-eating mongoose. So these are the 6 species of mongoose. Ruddy, naturalist Ruddy, happens to be a ruddy mongoose. Ruddy refers to the rusty red color of the mongoose. Where does naturalist Ruddy live? He lives in Kanha Tiger Reserve. If you've heard of the animal Barasinga, you are likely to know about this place. Kanha is a tiger reserve bang in the middle of India, in the state of Madhya Pradesh, and it is known for the hard-ground Barasinga. It is a kind of deer that's only found here. Now it has been relocated to a few other national parks, but up until 2017, 2018, Kanha was the only place where you could see a Barasinga. And this was a map that I had illustrated for the forest department of this tiger reserve. So as you can see, Kanha is replete with all kinds of wildlife. There are tigers, there are barasingas, various kinds of deer, there are wild dogs. One of the neglected creatures of this forest, which can be called the quintessential Indian forest, is the ruddy mongoose. This is what an actual ruddy mongoose looks like, and this is what its habitat looks like in the wild. These are pictures I took of the ruddy mongoose in Kanha itself. So, being a detective who solves various mysteries in nature, Naturalist Ruddy has various tools of his trade. Firstly, is a pair of binoculars, which he uses to view distant objects like birds. Then a notepad to make notes, draw sketches of the various culprits and the various hints in the crime scenes that he observes. He has a digital camera. He's got a laptop. He's very reliant on basic technology to decode his observations. Then Naturalist Ruddy has a very annoying habit of stealing camera traps. What are camera traps? They are cameras that are installed in the pathway of animals. So if an animal crosses a camera trap, it automatically records its pictures or videos. And scientists rely on these camera traps to study animals. So what Naturalist Ruddy does is that he steals these camera traps to help him solve his cases. And then once he's found out what his case is all about, he puts those camera traps back in place. And of course, he's got a hat that is called Hatson, after the character Watson from Sherlock Holmes. Ruddy also has a few friends who help him solve cases from time to time. Mongooses generally are solitary creatures, but in order to solve crimes, you need collaborations. So, like I mentioned, Ruddy's best friend is his Hatson, which also saves his life on a couple of occasions in the book. Then there's a molecular biologist called Dr. Shama, which is a white-rumped Shama. It's a kind of songbird, much like a robin. And this bird in Naturalist Ruddy stories is a forensic analyst, and she helps Ruddy solve various cases. Then we have a detective butterfly called Herschel Poirot. If you've read Agatha Christie, you'll know the character Hercule Poirot. And this butterfly is a red Poirot butterfly, so it's named after Hercule Poirot. And this is what he looks like. Naturalist Ruddy begins with a very important disclaimer. Do not touch any wildlife unless you are a certified wildlife biologist or a mongoose. All of us are neither. So the thumb rule that we're going to follow is that we are not going to touch any wildlife that we observe. All right, let's jump straight into the crime scenes. The first crime scene, I'm going to give you a few seconds to observe what's happening in the illustrations, and then I'm going to read out the crime scene. I was planning for this session to be a very interactive one, but I'm told that it's only going to be live streamed. So maybe you can take some time out and type in your answers in the comment section. And Antra, if that's okay, you can read them out. So, all right. In this particular crime scene, we are going to help Naturalist Ruddy make sense of what is happening. I'm just going to read out what's happening, and we have 4 options to arrive at the answer. Naturalist Ruddy has been observing 2 insects perched on lush green leaves of a vine. One, a shiny, metallic, and iridescent jewel beetle, and the other, a dull green leafhopper. An Indian robin, which is a bird, flies in looking for a meal. Ruddy's obvious guess is that the bird would go straight for the jewel beetle, which is much more prominent of the two. But to his surprise, the bird catches the leaf hopper, which seems very well concealed because of its camouflage. Why do you think the robin has hunted the leaf hopper and not the jewel beetle? A, because robins love challenges. B, because the robin wants to confuse Ruddy. C, because the jewel beetle's shiny colors warn the bird that it is toxic. Or D, because the iridescence of the beetle actually enhances its camouflage against lush, glossy leaves. Maybe we can have 1 minute of all you guys trying to type in your answers in the comments, and Andhra can just convey some of them. Andhra, do you have any answers as yet? Okay, someone guessed C. C is a very good guess. There are two D's. Okay, I'm surprised. All right, I won't waste much time. We have to wrap this session up pretty quickly. So, yes, D is the correct answer. Much to everyone's surprise, yes, a lot of insects use coloration to warn their predators that they are toxic, but the jewel beetle is an exception. Its loud coloration, its shiny coloration, is actually a defense mechanism to camouflage its body against the gloss of dew. So when there is dew on leaves and the surface of a leaf is shining against the light, that's when the jewel beetle uses its glossiness or its shine to hide against that shine itself. The second scene, the second crime scene. I'm going to leave you with a few seconds just to observe what's happening in the picture. All right. On a scorching summer noon at Boar Tiger Reserve. Boar is very close to where I live, bang in the center of India, just 50 kilometers from my hometown of Nagpur. So on a scorching summer noon at Boar Tiger Reserve, Naturalist Ruddy's search for a cozy spot to nap in brings him to the mouth of a tiny cave. But Ruddy cautions himself against entering the cave when he spots the remains of a deer strewn around its entrance. Whoever killed the deer must be resting in the cave. Only a large predator, the size of a tiger or leopard, is capable of hunting an adult male sambar. Sambar is a kind of deer which Ruddy deduces from the shape of the antlers. But the entrance to the cave is barely 2 feet in diameter, just about a mongoose size. So, which animal capable of killing India's largest deer could be less than 2 feet in size? Now, the sambar is India's largest deer, which is a full-grown sambar is almost the size of an adult man. All right, and the cave's entrance is only 2 feet in diameter. So, which animal that could be resting in the cave, which has clearly killed the deer, could be just 2 feet in size and still capable of killing such a huge animal? I'm going to read out this case to you. Ruddy takes cover behind a boulder and keeps his eyes glued to the cave's entrance. The culprit is certainly a crepuscular creature. By crepuscular, I mean creatures that are active at dusk and at dawn, and not during other times of the day. So the culprit is certainly a crepuscular creature to have disappeared in the cover of the cave's darkness during the day, Ruddy assesses. At dusk, a snout emerges. Ruddy can barely contain his curiosity. The deer hunter is seconds away from disclosing its identity. Holy snakes, an Indian crested porcupine. Ruddy was right to guess that the cave's occupant was a crepuscular animal, but completely wrong to assume that it had killed the stag. So, what is a porcupine doing with all these deer bones strewn around the cave's entrance? The herbivorous porcupine has a habit of picking bones and antlers from carcasses to later gnaw on them and supplement its diet with calcium. So porcupines usually feed on shoots and on seeds of plants, and they do not normally get calcium naturally from their diet. So this is what they do. If a tiger has killed a deer or a leopard has killed a deer, and it has finished eating it, and then the scavengers eat the rest of it, the porcupine comes in and picks the bones and later chews them to supplement its diet with calcium. Care for some crunchy antlers, offers the porcupine, but being a carnivore and not really requiring calcium supplements, Ruddy declines the generous offer politely, but not before mumbling some choice words at the prickly rodent for ruining his noon nap. So that was case number two. The next crime scene is a very exciting one because this is not in the book. This is something that Ruddy really needs all the best detectives among you to join and help him make sense of what's happening. So this is the crime scene. I'm going to give you a few seconds again to observe what is happening, and then we are going to jump straight in to find out who the killer in this crime scene is. All right. So we've got three sets of footprints. It's a snowy habitat. All of the action is happening in the middle of snow, and there's a splatter of blood. We see Naturalist Ruddy on the trail of the killer. All right. So what are the questions that spring to our mind? What exactly happened here? Who was killed, and who was the killer? Can any of you guess? Take a wild guess at who a killer in this kind of a snowy habitat would be. I'll just wait for 10 seconds for any of you to type in your answers, and then we'll proceed. We have a few answers. A bear, all right? It's a valid guess. Bears abound in snowy regions. Anybody else wants to take a shot at being a detective? Snow leopard, very good guess. Okay, that's a very logical answer because snow leopards are found in snowy habitats. All right, let's proceed with delving deeper into this crime scene. So, if you've read Sherlock Holmes, you must have come across this quote: "Guessing is a shocking habit, destructive to the logical faculty." That's what Sherlock Holmes always keeps telling Watson. So, we are not going to guess now. We are going to arrive at the conclusion logically, step by studying this crime scene. Okay. So, first of all, this being a snowy habitat, we are clear that all of this action is happening in the Himalayas because that's where snow is found in India, and the Himalayas are in the northern and the northeastern parts of India. So, based on this information, I've rounded up a suspect list. All right, because these are the various omnivores and carnivores that are likely to be found in the Himalayas, and these are the kind of species that are likely to have made this kill or committed this murder. So we've got two species of bears, the Himalayan black bear and the Himalayan brown bear. Then we've got the snow leopard, like somebody said. I have a few more answers in the chat window. Polar bear. Okay, no, all this is happening in India, so we have to eliminate the polar bear, which is found in the Arctic. These are our suspects, 10 suspects. Himalayan black bear, Himalayan brown bear, the snow leopard. Then we have two species of canids from the dog family, the red fox and the Tibetan wolf. Then we have three more cats other than the snow leopard, so that makes 4 cats. The snow leopard, the common leopard, the Eurasian lynx, and the Palis's cat. Among these, the leopard is the largest, and the Palis's cat is the smallest. And we've got two species of weasels, which are much like a mongoose, the mountain weasel and the yellow-throated marten, right? So let's eliminate these suspects step by step. Now, let's look at the crime scene very carefully and make some of our observations, much like what Sherlock Holmes did when he studies a murder scene. So first we see 3 sets of tracks. There are Ruddy's tracks, then there are the killers, and then there are the preys. There's a lot of chaos happening where the blood splatters, right? You see scratch marks, you see drag marks. So obviously a brawl has taken place, which means that the hunter and the hunted may have been of comparable strength. Then we see drag marks of the blood, which indicate that the prey was dragged and not carried, which further indicates that the prey, the animal that was killed, may have been a heavy creature for the killer to carry. So if it was something like a cat carrying a hare or a rabbit, this would not have been the case. It clearly indicates that the animal has killed something that is comparable to its size. And the final observation is that the killer's track are almost the same size as Ruddy, which means that the killer is roughly the size of a mongoose. All right. So now we are going to do a step-by-step analysis and compare each of these 10 suspects with a mongoose so that we can eliminate a few of them. All right. So these are our 10 suspects. Now, this is the comparable, the size comparison between the two species of bears and a mongoose. All right. So as you can see, these bears are much larger in size. They're actually much larger than us. So forget about a mongoose. All right. So whoever guessed bear was wrong. Then these are the 4 cats we spoke about. All right. The only 2 cats that can be compared to a mongoose's size are the Eurasian lynx and the Pallas's cat. So we can eliminate the snow leopard and the leopard. Among the 2 dogs, the wolf is much larger than a mongoose, but the fox is comparable to the size of a mongoose. Especially the fox's footprints can be just about equal to the size of a mongoose. So we can eliminate the wolf here. Then among the 2 weasels, the marten and the Himalayan weasel, the marten is comparable to the size of an adult mongoose, but the weasel is much smaller. So we can eliminate the weasel here. That leaves us with only 4 suspects from all the 10 options that we had. The red fox, the Eurasian lynx, the Pallas's cat, and the yellow-throated marten. All right. Now, can you take a shot at guessing which among these 4 is likely to be the murderer? I'll wait for another 10 seconds for the answers. Type in your answers in the comments. Somebody's guessed marten, right? Fair guess, because martens are quite ferocious and they are capable of killing animals that are much larger than them. So if there is a brawl that has taken place, it does indicate marten. But is that the answer? We don't know yet. Any other guesses? We've got 4 suspects now: the fox, the lynx, the Pallas's cat, and the marten. We've got 2 guesses for marten. Okay. Any more budding detectives who would like to try to solve this crime scene? Nobody's guessing fox. Why is that? Is the fox too cute to commit murder? 2 lynxes, okay, 1 fox. All right. Those were some nice guesses. We're going to go back to the crime scene once again because we've forgotten a very important observation. If you notice the killer's tracks and compare it with Ruddy's, you'll see that the claw marks are missing from the tracks. What can this possibly indicate? Naturalist Ruddy is a mongoose, right? And you can see very clearly that Ruddy's claw marks are intact in the smoke, but the killer's claw marks are missing. What does this indicate? What clue is hidden in this very important observation? That clue is that the killer is a cat. How did I arrive at this conclusion, or how did Ruddy arrive at this conclusion? Cats' claws are retractable. So when they walk, the claw marks do not show. Only when they hunt or when they are in action do the claw marks show. So that indicates that the killer could be a cat, which leaves us with only 2 options from the 4 we had: the lynx and the Pallas's cat. We can eliminate the weasel, that was the marten, and the fox, which is from the dog family. So even when a fox walks, you will see that its claw marks are intact in its footprints. Now, a hooved mammal was killed, which was comparable in size with the killer. Now, the kind of hooved mammals that are found in the Himalayas are either antelopes or goat antelopes. All right. So these are the common hooved mammals that are found in the Himalayas: the ibex, the Himalayan tahr, the serow, the goral, the bharal, and the Tibetan gazelle. All All right. Now we've established that the killer was comparable to the size of a mongoose. So that leaves us with only the goral, which is the smallest of the Himalayan goats, which can be compared to the size of a mongoose. All right, it is larger than a mongoose, but it can be still compared in size. The other options are much larger. So, so we've established that the animal that was killed was a goral. We've established that the killer could be either of the two cats, the Pallas's cat and the lynx. We've also established that the killer and the prey were of comparable size and strength. So, who do you think among the two cats would be capable of killing a goral? Can I have a few answers in the comments? Lynx, that is correct. And that with that we arrive at the identity of our murderer, which is the Eurasian lynx. So this is what natural study is all about. It's about making observations in nature, making your own observations in nature, solving your own little mysteries, and understanding the world of wildlife, wild animals much better, understanding how they interact with each other, understanding how they exploit the resources that nature offers to them, and what they mean to us in this whole web of life. Uh, if you are into writing postcards and letters to your friends, I've got good news for you. Naturalist Ruddy comes with a set of two postcards, which are free, which are included in the book, which you can use to write postcards to your pen friends. And these postcards pay homage, pay tribute to detective classics. One is Vertigo, which was a film by Alfred Hitchcock. It's an old film. I'd be surprised if any of you are aware of these films. And the other is Chinatown, both of which are detective classics. Thanks everyone, and I hope you had fun in joining Naturalist Study to solve these mysteries. There are 39 more cases in the book, more such cases and mysteries in the book that I'm sure you will enjoy if you've enjoyed this presentation. Thanks for putting up with me and joining me and Radi solve these mysteries.
Thank you so much, Rohan. That was really fun. And now we can definitely take some questions. So if you have any questions, just put them in the Facebook chat and I'll read them out from there. Meanwhile, I'll put in a link where you can find Rohan's books. So while we wait, I was also wondering, so you must have found out a lot of really interesting things while writing this book and finding so many cases for Ruddy. And in one of them, Ruddy says that heist writers should take some hints from the natural world. So if you had to choose any one crazy creature who would be perfect for a heist movie, what would that be?
I don't know, there's so many creatures in Ruddy itself. I particularly like this lizard called the water monitor, which lays its eggs in the nest of a bird called the megapode. And that's really something that I think a heist movie should be based on, because this is a very deceitful lizard, and I think I haven't seen a better heist in Hollywood.
Definitely. Somebody says they have two questions, which they will ask now. You said you watch. Okay, so this is someone who has read your book and saw your application at the end, where you applied to work with Ruddy. And they're asking, since you watch birds, you must know a lot about them. Why would Ruddy reject your request?
Well, two reasons. I don't own a detective hat, and I'm terrible at identifying plants. I'm working on it, but until then, I'm not qualified to be Ruddy's accomplice.
I saw that you like to use eBird to track the birds that you see. So what was the last bird you entered?
Oh, it must be the Tickle's blue flycatcher in my garden.
Lovely. Let's see. Someone else has asked, what made you come up with a detective? Why did you think that, what did you find in nature that related to detective stories the most?
Like I explained at the beginning, a lot of these creatures that I was trying to understand presented themselves as mysteries to me. And I know that this is an era of shortening attention spans. Readers are not used to reading something elaborate like a science paper or a lengthy article, and that's where I figured that bringing in an element of suspense and mystery in telling stories about wildlife, telling stories about nature, would make things a lot spicier. And that's how I thought of experimenting with a detective format.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was reading the cases and I ended up going down a few Wikipedia rabbit holes because I was just so amazed by the fact that this can, happen and that this exists. So I was definitely encouraged to find out a lot from this story. Another question which says, have you always been keen to learn more about wildlife, or have you only focused and researched for the sake of writing the book?
No, I've always been interested in wildlife. I've been drawing cartoons about wildlife since 2010. Again, it was because of a tigress that I came up with the idea. I saw my first tigress in the wild, and that's how I got hooked to wildlife. And then I realized that there wasn't much creative communication happening in conveying the kind of issues that wild animals are facing, and also various socio-political issues that go behind the scenes of conserving wildlife, and to eliminate or solve the issues of the conflict between man and wildlife. So these are complex issues to understand, and I think creative communication goes a long way in breaking these bits of information down, and that's how I started drawing cartoons about it.
Yeah, I spent some time on your Instagram and I saw a lot of your comic strips that address a lot of pertinent issues for anyone. What made you specifically shift your focus to children with Naturalist Ruddy?
Actually, natural study is not really meant for children. I didn't have an age group in mind when I created the book. It just so happens that readers in India generally perceive picture books as being exclusive to children, but that's really not the case. Anybody who's interested in nature is welcome to read natural study, and I'm sure it is going to be enjoyed by people of all ages.
I mean, yes, definitely. It was really an enjoyable experience. I think that's it then for today. Thank you so much for being here. And all of you can, this is our last online session. You can all check out these videos on Facebook. They'll remain there. And once again, thank you so much, Rohan, for being here. And I can't wait to read more of your stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.